Good morning, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you all are having a great start to your Saturday morning as we're getting the weekend kicked off. Just want to give you all an update for the weather this weekend. It's going to be kind of active, especially for the Northeast and really just the entire eastern coast. There's a chance of some strong to severe storms, especially today for the Northeast. And, there's a decent chance of some flooding occurring in the Northeast also off the same storms that could produce severe weather. Also, we're going to have some summer storms here in the southeast Saturday and Sunday. Sunday could be a little bit more widespread as a cold front is approaching its upper trough in the northeast. It's going to promote a severe weather threat, kind of more typical for spring. I don't see any kind of tornado outbreak or anything, but we're going to talk about that because, this is a little bit different than your average summer pattern, as you have some dynamics here in place that could promote more of severe weather as far as just pop-up storms. I tell you what, if you guys watched my video last night, follow me on Twitter or anything like that, but I did a video. We had a nasty outflow-driven storm that popped up and moved from the northeast down to the Columbia area. If anybody lives in the Columbia-Lexington area, they definitely experienced it here in South Carolina. Had some big time flooding in some areas, not big time as in destroying homes or anything, but I tell you what, Highway 1 turned into a river, and it got pretty intense. Biggest storm of the year so far as rainfall. A lot of lightning too, but it was a very intense summer storm. Got pretty intense there for a little bit, but let's run through this. We're gonna run through all the threat levels and then kind of look at what is in place to cause this severe weather and take a look at the HRRR and NAM models. But here we go. We have a marginal risk that stretches just north of Raleigh, North Carolina, as far north as almost Boston, Massachusetts. Marginal risk is a level 1 out of 5, but it's still a severe weather threat. For instance, that storm I was just talking about here in Columbia and Lexington area here in South Carolina, we were under a general risk, which is that lighter shade of green. If there's just a slight risk, well, not literally, because slight is a level 2 out of 5, but even if there's just a risk of severe storms, you need to pay attention to it. So northeast to the mid-Atlantic areas, big area of Virginia, including Roanoke, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, up to Philadelphia to New York City, and a big chunk of eastern Pennsylvania, and just north of New York City is under a slight risk, and that is because there's going to be a little bit of a tornado threat in that area. 2% chance of a tornado in 25 miles at any given location in this little small area, this 2%. If you guys are having a hard time seeing it on my video, definitely go to the National Weather Service site. Literally, all you got to do is type in Google is NWS space SPC. Click it. Everything is pretty smooth going after that. It's pretty easy to figure it out. But the big threat is the wind threat, wind damage threat that might get going here, including Scranton, like I said, eastern Pennsylvania and areas of New Jersey and New York State. So, big time storms up there today. I really think it is. Hail threat's not very high. It's almost non-existent. You normally don't get hail threats this time of the year and you're in the summer. But a big, let's go to day 2, because we have to watch out for some severe weather for Sunday too. Not as big of a threat, but it's more just widespread storms. But I would not be surprised if a marginal threat gets introduced here in the southeast as the main energy shifts southeast, and it might turn more into not a discrete, but more of a consolidated storm mode, meaning we might get more of a line of storms tomorrow here in the southeast somewhere. We'll watch that kind of a lee trough interaction just east of the mountains, so especially in the Carolinas. So we'll watch that. Big thing today, there is a moderate risk of excessive rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance for that specific area. So basically, a 20 to 50% chance of flash flooding occurring of 25 miles at any given location, the same kind of areas that there is a severe weather threat. It's a big enough deal already when you're in a marginal threat of flash flooding, but this is a huge area of the Northeast and northern Mid-Atlantic that is a high chance of flooding occurring with these storms. I'll tell you why here in a second. Basically the moisture values are pretty high all the way up into this area ahead of this upper trough digging here, meaning there is a lot of moisture in the air, meaning that when it rains cats and dogs, if that makes sense. So big time risk of flooding here in the Northeast today. I mean, that's pretty high. That's something you see in a tropical system. You go to day 2 and everything kind of shifts south. So if you're in the Carolinas, the southern areas of Virginia, all the way to Tennessee, good chunk of Georgia, about half of Georgia, a large chunk of Alabama, Mississippi, going all the way to Arkansas, Tennessee. Marginal threat, 5 to 10% chance of flash flooding occurring of 25 miles at any given location. So I think the threat of flooding really shifts more south. So we have to watch out tomorrow. Looking here, these are what you call the precipitation water values, or I like to say PWAT values, which is PWAT for short. When you see areas starting to get in the red, that's precipitation values exceeding 2 inches. That means when you get a pop-up shower over you, it is absolutely going to unload a lot of rain. That means that you get a pop-up shower storm that gets over you, it might dump a half an inch of rain in 5 or 10 minutes. Half an inch of rain is a lot of rain in that short amount of time. It's kind of what happened here yesterday. I'll tell you, for a good example, if you don't know how to read these or really have access to them, this is a paid subscription site, and you don't see these on the free sites much. But a good way to know when the atmosphere is very juiced up is if it's always think about it like this. If it's 10, 11 a.m. in the morning and the atmosphere just feels incredibly humid. It just basically feels incredibly humid out there. Temperatures are already pushing 90 degrees. Dew points are already in the low to mid 70s, upper 70s in spot. That's when you know that even if there's not a high chance specifically in the forecast for storms to pop up, that's when you know if the atmosphere is getting juiced up and heated up and that quick early in the day, just off observation, physical observation, there's a good chance you're going to get some showers and storms popping up in your area later that day. Not a 100% chance, but a solid chance. Something's going to at least pop up around you. And that's kind of what happened yesterday. I was at work, doing a couple things outside, and it just felt like a classic mid-July day before a stormy afternoon, if you know what I mean. And the atmosphere was super juiced up. So this upper trough digging here in Canada, basically ahead of it, you have a huge moisture flow surging out ahead of it. So you have precipitation values exceeding 2 inches, well up into the Canada border. As you're getting going here, we're looking at NAM. You also had that in the Carolinas, so we're getting into the afternoon hours Saturday. And even if you see where you see the yellow shadings, I mean, that's precipitation values to 1.6 to 1.8, 1.9 inches. It's still going to rain like crazy. But check it out all the way up into the Northeast in Boston. Precipitation values exceeding 2 inches, 2.2 inches in spots. So basically what I'm saying is you can actually see the upper trough digging here where there's much drier air right here. So what I'm saying is basically these storms are going to unload a lot of rain quick wherever they develop. So keep in mind, and as we go into Sunday, it's the same deal, but that upper trough influence kind of moves in and dries it out a little bit for certain areas. And I think that is why tomorrow you have a big threat of, not a big, but a threat of flash flooding occurring more south, because check it out, the same areas that had a lot of moisture today, tomorrow it'll be a little bit more dry here, probably a little bit less humid, and the moisture flow is kind of compressed down here to the south. That means we're going to have a flooding threat with any storms that develop, especially in South Carolina. I'm watching South Carolina more. Could get some very, very heavy rainfall depending on who gets hit by what. So might be another day to watch out for the skies. And you can check it out. This is dew points. These aren't temperatures. We're getting into this afternoon. You can look at a stout boundary developing. Normally when you have that boundary, meaning a boundary between higher temperatures and lower temperatures, a boundary between higher humidity and lower humidity, lower dew points and high dew points, that's normally just south of that when you can get that severe weather. And sure enough, that 2% chance of tornado threat is right here, right where this juiced up atmosphere is, just south of a more stable environment, dew points in the 50s. So we have to watch out here for sure. We have some quick spin ups here. You know, we just need to watch out in this area. This is just kind of a favorable area for a small risk of tornadoes. Obviously down south, dew points are much higher and just consistently higher everywhere, and it's just very tropical air mass. So we'll continue to watch this. You keep on moving forward here, and dew points drop behind, with the influence of this upper trough, and a lot more somewhat comfortable conditions with dew points in the lower 60s, mid 60s, maybe 50s in spots here in the Ohio Valley and areas of the Mid-Atlantic. So they'll be much more comfortable more. So 10 minutes in this video, we're finally getting to the simulation radar here. So check it out, HRRR model, and getting into this afternoon. Watch this area right here. You get a little bit more of a discrete mode popping up ahead of the main action. This is where the tornado threat can develop. In these little cells right in here that pop up. Doesn't look like a lot, but anything that does develop right there just north of New York City into eastern Pennsylvania could have a tornado threat. Then behind it, it turns more into a line of storms, and damaging wind threat really kicks in into the evening hours. And watch out for these storms right here too in Massachusetts and Connecticut into Rhode Island. So they get going through. Also watch down here in the Mid-Atlantic, because y'all are under a marginal risk too of severe weather. So West Virginia, Virginia. It's very hard to know where these storms are going to pop up, but they are going to pop up. And later into the afternoon and evening, there's going to be more of a line of storms that really develop. But check out this bowed out action here moving through New York State. Need to watch this. This could produce a nasty shelf cloud, very photogenic scenario here right before the sun goes down here in New York State. We'll watch that. That could really produce a big time wind threat for sure. Look at the NAM. It looks similar as far as that line of storms, but like I said, watch out for these discrete cells that pop up ahead of this main line. That's where the tornado threat is. It looks a little bit different. It kind of loses that line of storms up here and more produces a big-time line of storms right around the Washington, D.C. area into the Philadelphia and Baltimore area. That could produce some damaging winds for sure. And then these discrete cells popping up even in North Carolina. We'll watch that. And I'm not really going to show the radar for tomorrow because the severe weather threat up there tomorrow kind of dies down to the northeast. But we'll look at the HRRR model here into the southeast. Southeast today, you're not going to be influenced much by that upper trough as much, and you know, it's another day. It seems like I look at the NAM and the HRRR model here, specifically in South Carolina when I wake up, and the storm coverage is not much. The last 2 days, including yesterday and the day before, it was not, but these giant nasty storms popped up anyways. So when you see this and you don't really see much storm action in South Carolina, and your state specifically, that does not mean there's not going to be widespread storms. Most certainly could be, and there probably will be. These short-range models have a hard time trying to predict where storms are going to pop up, especially when it's more of a pop-up kind of storm day. It's just trying to predict where the most unstable part of the atmosphere is and just kind of goes off that. But isolated to scattered showers and storms today. Whoever gets them will get a lot of rain very quickly, especially if the storms don't want to move much. But I have a feeling these storms will be moving. There's a little bit of a flow out there that's allowing these things to move. You get into Sunday afternoon, a little bit more widespread for sure. And we'll have to watch to see if anything kind of develops into basically a line of storms, a mesoscale convective system. We'll just have to watch that. Basically, it's a line of storms that could produce some damaging winds, very photogenic storms, but normally the consequences is some damaging winds, but we'll watch that. But as you can tell, a lot more widespread across the entire southeast tomorrow for our Sunday. A lot bigger threat of also flooding. We get into the day, the NAM a little bit more aggressive in the southeast as far as pop-up showers and storms, but at the same time, not near as aggressive as northeast. And then tomorrow, like I said, I'm watching South Carolina. I mean, you can tell where this upper trough is digging right here. I think the storms will be moving more from a west to east kind of motion, but definitely some nasty storms are going to pop up tomorrow across the southeast. It's going to produce a lot of heavy rain. So we'll continue to monitor this. As far as rainfall, It just depends on where you are. I think we're in the Northeast where, through the weekend you could get anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 inches. But some areas could get 5 inches, depending on if your area that keeps getting hit over and over by a nasty storm. Same thing, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to get what, but this is the National Weather Service trying to give you a good prediction. It likes this area right here, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas to get several inches of rain. So that's all I got, guys. This video went way longer than I thought it was, probably because I drank my morning coffee just now and I'm jacked up. So I hope y'all have a great weekend. Thank y'all for tuning in, and God bless all y'all.